The battlefield was covered in smoke and broken machines. Fires danced in the distance. A human soldier named Elias stumbled through the wreckage, his armor cracked, his energy weapon flickering in his hand. He wasn't supposed to be here. The things. War was between the Korzali Empire and the rebels from Orion's Edge. Earth had no part in this. But somehow, he had been dragged into the center of it. He had been part of a rescue mission. Simple. Get in, grab the hostages, and get out. But everything went wrong. A crash sounded nearby. Elias dropped into a crouch, weapon raised. Something moved behind a pile of shattered metal. He crept closer. Not a rebel. Not a soldier. It was her, a tall alien girl with glowing silver blue skin, elegant armor torn, and long white hair clinging to her face. She had regal markings across her forehead and a strange, soft crown still sitting crooked on her head. Elias froze. This wasn't just a noble dot, it was the princess. Don't move, he said, raising his weapon. But the girl didn't flinch. She looked at him with wide, strange eyes, violet and glowing faintly in the dust. You're human. You're not supposed to be here, he muttered. She raised her hands. Neither are you. Somehow, in the chaos, they both had been. Left behind, he glanced around. No guards, no cameras. Just two enemies stuck in a dead zone between factions. They stared at each other, breathing hard. You're wounded, she said, noticing the gash across his side. And you're not doing so great either, he replied, nodding at the blood on her shoulder. I'm Princess Iris of House Thalzan, she said, as if that should mean something to him. Yeah? Elias said, keeping his weapon steady. Well, I'm Elias. Just Elias. Her face tightened. You saved me from the rebels. That means something in my culture. What? Elias asked, narrowing his eyes. She didn't answer. Suddenly, low rumble echoed across the field. A patrol ship Korzali, Iris's people. Put the weapon down, she said quietly. If they see you like this, they'll kill you. No questions. I'm not putting this down. If you don't, she said, stepping closer, then I'll have to tell them you're my chosen mate. Elias blinked. What? In our customs? When a royal's life is saved in battle, the rescuer may claim her. If he does, she becomes his. That's seriously messed up. Iris's eyes narrowed. It is tradition. Wait, are you asking me to claim you? No, she said coldly. I am warning you. If you don't, you'll be seen as a trespasser and executed. Elias stared at her. Smoke curled between them. The ship was getting closer. It would land any moment. He had no choice. I claim her, he said. Whatever that means. She looked genuinely stunned. You chose me? You said I had to, but no one ever does. Before he could ask what she meant, the patrol ship landed with a hiss. Several Korzali soldiers stepped out, weapons drawn. Princess. One of them cried, rushing. Toward her. Elias stood frozen as the princess stepped forward and announced in a strong voice, This human is my bonded protector. He has claimed me according to sacred law. The soldiers stopped. Their expressions turned from confusion to immediate respect. They bowed. A soldier looked at Elias and said in broken English, Welcome, consort. Elias almost dropped his gun. He had gone from soldier to royal husband. Princess Iris leaned closer and whispered, Play along, for now. The soldiers led them into the ship. As the doors closed, Elias caught one last glimpse of the battlefield where this had all started. He had come to save hostages. He had accidentally saved a royal bride, and now he was part of something much, much bigger. Elias sat stiffly on a cushioned bench inside the patrol ship. Everything around him gleamed, walls of polished crystal, softly humming energy panels, and alien guards in silver armor. but he couldn't relax. Every Karzali soldier eyed him with suspicion, even if they bowed out of respect for the royal consort. Princess Iris sat beside him, calm and poised. She hadn't spoken much since the ship took off. Her posture was regal, but Elias noticed how tightly her fingers were curled in her lap. She was just as nervous as he was. Finally, Elias leaned closer and whispered, "Can we talk now?" Iris gave him a sideways glance. "Speak quietly. They're listening." "What the hell did you get me into?" he asked under his breath. "You got yourself into it," she said. "I gave you a choice. You said I'd die if I didn't say yes." She didn't answer. "I'm not royalty," Elias muttered. "I'm a mechanic turned soldier. I have no idea how to handle alien politics. Or whatever this is." "You'll adapt," she said flatly. The ship began to slow. Through a translucent window, Elias saw a massive structure floating in space. It looked like a palace and a warship combined, towers, domes, and shining defense systems all fused together in orbit. "That's your home?" Elias asked. She nodded. "The Star Spire, seat of the high houses," he swallowed hard. "Great. A flying castle full of aliens who want to kill me. Some may want to test you. Others may try to shame me for choosing a human." "You mean me choosing you?" Elias corrected. Her lips twitched. Was that almost a smile? "Remember," she said seriously, "you must not back down. If they see fear, they'll strike. If they sense weakness, they'll challenge the bond." "Challenge the bond? How?" "Combat, mostly." "Mostly?" Before she could answer, the ship docked. The doors opened with a hiss, revealing a royal welcome horns played. Guards stood at attention, and a long line of officials waited. All eyes turned to Elias. He stepped off the ship beside the princess. The air was cooler here, heavy with strange perfumes. Every step echoed. The moment felt unreal. Was he dreaming? An older alien with glowing gold robes stepped forward. His face was lined, but his gaze was sharp. "Princess Iris," he said, "you return unharmed. Praise to the stars." "I live because of him," she said, motioning toward Elias. The man's eyes narrowed. "The human. This is your chosen?" Iris lifted her chin. "Yes, according to our oldest rites." The man studied Elias like a puzzle. "I am Lord Kalen, High Advisor to the Imperial Court." "Hi," Elias said, awkwardly. "Nice place." Lord Kalen didn't respond. Instead, he turned to the gathered crowd and announced, "Let it be known, the human Elias has invoked the ancient rite. He stands now as royal consort of House Thalzan." There was scattered applause, but also murmurs. Many didn't look pleased. They were led through long golden halls to private quarters. Once inside, the doors sealed behind them. Elias looked around. The room was enormous curved walls, a glowing ceiling like a night sky, and a bed far too large. He turned to Iris. "This is insane," she nodded. "Yes, but necessary." "For what?" "For survival, for both of us," Elias paced. "What happens now?" "We wait. The court will summon us. They'll want to test your claim." "You mean a trial?" "Worse, a proving." "Look," he said, stopping. "I only said those words to stay alive. I didn't mean to mess up your life." "You didn't," she said, quietly now. "In fact, you may have saved it again." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "There were those at court who wanted to arrange a marriage for me, with a warlord, a brute from the outer colonies. Your claim ruined their plan. Now they can't force me. So I'm a political shield?" "Yes, and in return, you get protection, a title, a place among the stars." Elias ran a hand through his hair. "I never wanted any of this." Iris finally looked at him fully. "Neither did I." Silence hung between them. Then a small chime echoed. A glowing disc on the wall lit up. "The court summons you," a voice said. Elias's heart dropped. "Me? Both of us," Aris replied. "Do I get armor? A weapon?" She handed him a smooth silver blade with a curved hilt. "Use this, speak little, let your actions speak louder." He nodded, gripping the blade. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he had chosen her, and now the galaxy was watching. The royal court chamber was unlike anything Elias had seen before. The walls weren't walls, they were moving waves of light and color, shimmering like a nebula. Dozens of alien nobles sat in elevated chairs, arranged in a spiral around a central platform. Each wore flowing robes and armor woven with gold threads. Their faces were unreadable, their eyes sharp and cold. Elias stood at the center of it all, trying not to fidget. Princess Ari stood at his side, her head high, expression calm. But he could feel her tension. He wasn't supposed to speak unless asked. But he still held the silver ceremonial blade she gave him earlier. It felt strange in his grip, almost alive. A loud chime rang out, and the High Advisor Kalen stepped forward. "This court acknowledges the claim made by the human Elias upon Princess Aris of House Thalzan," Kalen declared. "As ancient custom demands, the consort must now be proven." "Proven how?" Elias whispered to Aris. "Stand firm," she replied softly. "Don't back down." A warrior stepped into the arena, a Karzali male with spiked armor and glowing blue skin. He had 4 arms, each carrying a different weapon: sword, spear, claw, and energy whip. His presence alone made the air feel heavier. Kalen announced, "Trial by combat." The challenger, Lord Varn of House Jelter, declares the bond to be false and weak. He offers his blade to test the human's worth. Elias blinked. "He's what?" Ares leaned in quickly. "If you lose, they'll dissolve the bond. I'll be handed over to House Jelter." "I thought this was a wedding, not a deathmatch." Elias hissed. Varn roared and stepped forward, spinning his weapons with terrifying speed. "This human is no mate for a royal. He's soft, slow, pathetic." "Let him bleed," Elias swallowed. "Great, he even does speeches." Kalen raised his hand. "Begin." Varn lunged. Elias barely dodged. The spear sliced past his cheek. The whip cracked inches from his legs. Varn was faster than anything he'd fought before, and Elias had no armor, no shield, just one blade. He rolled, ducked, and swung clumsily. The blade hummed strangely in his hands. It felt like it wanted to move on its own. Iris called out from the side, "Let it guide you. That sword is bonded, it chooses the worthy." "What does that mean?" Elias shouted. He dodged another blow, and the sword suddenly vibrated, pulling his hand sideways right into a perfect parry. Varn's blade was knocked away. The crowd gasped. Elias didn't have time to think. He moved again, this time faster, smoother. He wasn't fighting with the blade. The blade was helping him fight. Varn roared in anger. "You dare mock me, worm?" He leaped, bringing down all 4 weapons in one brutal attack. Elias jumped sideways, rolled, then slashed low. Varn screamed. One leg gave out. The crowd fell silent. Elias stepped back, panting, blade held steady. Varn crawled, but did not rise. Kalen raised his hand again. "Enough. The challenger is defeated." "The bond stands." Gasps filled the court. Murmurs of disbelief echoed through the chamber. A human had just beaten a warlord of Karzali nobility. Iris stepped forward. "He is not weak. He is not unworthy." "Let this be the end of your doubts." Kalen gave a slow nod. "The court recognizes the human Elias as true consort. By blade, by courage, by choice." Suddenly the court changed. The faces softened. Some nobles nodded respectfully. Others looked away, silent but acknowledging. As Elias and Aris left the chamber, he finally exhaled. His shirt was soaked in sweat, and he could feel his legs shaking. "I can't believe I just did that," he muttered. "You did more than win," Aris said quietly beside him. "You forced them to see you." He looked at her. "Does this mean I'm safe now?" "For now," she replied, "but not forever. There are those who will never accept you." "I figured. But you proved to me," she said slowly, "that maybe this isn't a mistake after all." Elias stopped walking. She turned and faced him. "When I said no one ever chooses me, I meant it. I was always a tool, a pawn in noble games. Until you," he shrugged. "I thought I was just saving someone who needed help. And that," she said with a small, real smile, "is why you might be stronger than all of them." For the first time since the battlefield, Elias smiled back. Tired, bruised, confused, but still standing, and still chosen. Asterisk. The days that followed were strange for Elias. He was no longer treated like a prisoner, nor like a soldier. Now he was a royal consort. Guards bowed. Servants offered him food he couldn't even name. And alien nobles constantly whispered about him when they thought he wasn't listening. But Elias didn't trust it. Not yet. He spent most of his time with Princess Aris. She showed him how to walk through the palace without getting lost, how to greet the highborn correctly, and how not to insult an elder of the court with a wrong glance. But still, no matter how calm she acted, Elias could tell something was troubling her. One evening, after a silent dinner in a chamber high above the stars, he finally asked, "What's really going on?" Aris looked up from her bowl of glowing fruit. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're hiding something. You're teaching me how to survive, but you never say what you're really afraid of." She set her spoon down carefully. "Because fear is dangerous here. If they sense it, they'll use it against us." "Then tell me," he said. "We're bonded, aren't we? Isn't that what this means?" She hesitated. Then she stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars glittered. Against the void. House Jelter isn't finished. Lord Varn's defeat hurt their pride, but they have other ways of striking. Like what? Elias asked. She turned, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "They've called for an ancient challenge. The vow of purity. They claim I was corrupted before you claimed me." Elias blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means they are saying I was already promised to someone else. That your claim isn't valid." "That's a lie," he snapped. "They don't care. All they need is enough doubt to force another trial, a ritual one. I'll be questioned in front of the elders. They'll demand proof of my loyalty to the bloodline." "And to you?" Elias frowned. "You mean they're going to shame you in public?" "Yes," she said quietly. "And if they succeed, they'll separate us. I'll be stripped of my title. You'll be exiled. Or worse." Elias clenched his fists. "Then we don't let that happen." Aris stepped closer. "There's one way we can stop it. One way to end all doubt." He looked at her. "What?" "Complete the bond," she said softly. "Publicly, in the Temple of Stars." Elias paused. "Like, get married for real?" She nodded. "In the Kurzali way. The entire court will witness it. If we complete the sacred rite, not even the high houses can undo it." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't expect this when I left Earth." "I didn't expect to care what happened to you," she said honestly. That quiet sentence made Elias stop. Their eyes met. For a moment, the court, the palace, and all its dangers faded. "You want to do it?" he asked. She took a deep breath. "Yes," he stepped forward. "Then we do it, together." The Temple of Stars was older than the Empire itself. It floated in orbit, surrounded by protective energy rings. Only royal blood could open its doors. As the temple gates parted, a choir of soft, humming voices filled the air. White flames floated along the floor. The air was warm and glowing, like starlight made solid. Iris wore a shimmering silver robe, her markings brightened with ceremonial dye. Elias stood beside her in a formal tunic stitched with her family's crest. The nobles were gathered behind them, watching, judging. Kalen stepped forward. "Do you come by choice?" "I do," Iris said. "I do," Elias echoed. "Then you must show unity. Exchange the bond." Iris held out a glowing thread of light from her palm. Elias did the same, unsure how it worked, but the moment his hand opened, the thread formed on its own. From the blade she had given him during the trial, the two threads twisted, touched, and merged. The room lit up as the bond sealed. A wave of energy washed across the temple. Kalen stepped back and announced, "It is done. By right of the stars, they are one." Some nobles bowed, others turned and left in silence. But no one spoke against it. Elias looked at Iris. She was breathing softly, eyes shining not just from light, but from something deeper. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. For the first time in a long while, yes. But far away, in the shadows of the court, someone else watched. A figure cloaked in dark robes. House Shelter had lost a battle, but the war wasn't over, and now they had a new plan. The next few days were quiet, but not peaceful. Since the temple bonding, Elias had become a true consort by Korzeli law. Nobles stopped whispering about him in the halls. The guards saluted more respectfully. Even the servants bowed lower. But Elias didn't trust the silence. Neither did Iris. She was always watching. Her steps were careful, her eyes flicking toward shadows. Something wasn't right. One evening, while Elias was practicing with the sword she had given him swinging it in slow arcs in their private courtyard, Iris entered silently. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, arms folded, as he moved through the motion she'd taught him. "You've improved," she finally said. "I still feel like I'm just swinging a stick around." She smiled faintly. "That's how it begins." Elias lowered the blade and turned toward her. "You've been tense. What's wrong?" She hesitated. "There's been a message from House Shelter. They've invoked the right of ancestral challenge. Another trial?" "No," she said, stepping closer. "It's older than the courts, more dangerous. It's a blood claim." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" "They've sent someone. A blood champion. He doesn't follow laws or titles. He only follows the blade." Elias frowned. "So, he's coming to kill me." "Yes." Elias leaned on the sword. "Of course he is." Iris looked away, her voice quieter. "If you fall, the bond breaks. And they take me." He looked at her for a long moment. "Then I won't fall." "You could run," she said. "Leave the Empire. Go back to Earth. You're not trapped." "I didn't choose you to run," Elias said softly. "And I sure as hell won't leave you now." For the first time, she stepped forward, not as a princess, not as a warrior, but just as Ares. Her fingers touched his arm. "Then you must prepare. This champion, he's not like the others." That night, the stars outside their window were quiet. The wind howled softly through the corridors. And in the deepest chamber of the star spire, a figure arrived. The champion. He wore no armor, only black robes with red cords and bone ornaments. His skin was ash gray, his eyes black with no whites. Two long blades hung at his back. He said nothing as he entered the grand hall. Kalen stood waiting. "You come for the human?" the elder asked. The champion didn't answer. He only drew one blade and laid it across the floor. Kalen's eyes narrowed. "So it is death, then." The champion gave a single, slow nod. "The next day, Elias, stood on the palace training ground surrounded by high nobles, guards, and witnesses. Word had spread across the Starspire. The royal consort would face the blood champion of House Shelter. He felt a knot in his stomach, but kept his hands steady. Iris stood beside him. She handed him his blade. "You don't have to win with strength," she said. "You have to win with will." "I was hoping for something easier," Elias muttered. Then the champion stepped onto the stone circle. Everything went silent. He bowed once, not out of respect, but tradition. Elias did the same. Then the fight began. The champion moved like smoke, blade flashing with terrifying speed. Elias barely blocked the first strike. The second grazed his shoulder. The third knocked him off balance. But he didn't fall. He circled, staying low, breathing evenly. The bond blade hummed in his grip, responding to his thoughts, his fear, his fire. Elias remembered Iris's words, "Let the blade guide you." He focused. When the champion struck again, Elias spun. Their swords clashed in a burst of sparks. The champion smiled faintly, an expression without warmth, and pressed harder. But Elias didn't back down. He parried, countered, ducked. He bled, but stayed standing. The nobles murmured. The crowd leaned forward. A long exchange passed, minutes that felt like hours. Then, in one perfect moment, Elias dropped low and swept his blade across the champion's leg. The warrior stumbled. Elias surged forward and drove the tip of his blade to the champion's throat, but stopped just short. Silence. The champion looked at him. Then, slowly, he dropped his sword and knelt. It was over. Elias lowered his blade. His hands were shaking, his body bruised, but he was alive. Kalen stepped forward. "The bond holds. No more challenges will be recognized." The nobles bowed. And Iris, standing at the edge of the circle, exhaled for the first time in hours. Later, when they were alone, Elias collapsed onto their bed, exhausted. "I think I lost 5 years off my life," he groaned. Iris sat beside him and whispered, "You gained something too." "What? My heart?" Elias blinked at her. "That wasn't part of the deal." "No," she said. "It wasn't. And for once." There was no fear in her eyes. Elias woke the next morning with aching ribs and a bruised shoulder, but he didn't care. For the first time since stepping onto this alien world, he felt something close to peace. No one questioned his bond with Iris now. He had stood against House Shelter's blood champion and won. No more trials, no more duels. No more whispers in the hallway, at least not in the open. But peace in the Karzali Empire was never real. It was a mask, and it was about to crack. Iris stood by the window, staring at the stars beyond. Her long hair shimmered in the soft morning light. She didn't speak, just held a small glowing disc in her palm. "What's that?" Elias asked, sitting up. "A transmission," she said. "Encrypted, hidden in the palace systems." "From who?" She turned. Her voice dropped. "From my mother." Elias frowned. "I thought you said your mother died during the uprising." "That's what I was told," she said. "But this says otherwise." He moved to her side and looked at the disc. A flickering image formed in the air. A pale, regal alien woman with eyes just like Iris's. She looked tired, worn. "If you're seeing this, my daughter," the message began, "then I am still alive, imprisoned, hidden by those you trust." Elias felt his heart drop. Iris didn't move. She just stared. The message continued. "They said I betrayed the Empire, that I fled. But I was taken, silenced, because I knew the truth behind the Starspire, behind the bloodlines, behind the ancient codes they now use to bind you." Then the message cut off. Silence filled the room. Elias finally said, "She's alive. We have to find her." Iris slowly sat down. "If this is true, then everything I've believed is a lie. My father, the council. They locked her away to control me. Elias crouched beside her. You're the heir. But if your mother returns, they lose control. She nodded, and they will do anything to keep that control, even if it means killing both of us. Elias stood up, his voice steady. Then we go after her. We get her back. Ares looked up at him, uncertain. You'd leave the palace? Risk everything? I risked everything the day I claimed you, he said with a faint smile. This is just the next step. That night, it wasn't easy. The Star Spire was locked down, watched by dozens of guards, drones, and nobles with sharp eyes and sharper intentions. But Ares knew the hidden paths, ancient servant tunnels, and energy lift shafts long forgotten. They dressed in gray utility robes, the kind worn by ship crew. Elias kept his blade hidden beneath his belt. Ares carried a scanner and the data disk with her mother's coordinates, an old star sector on the far edge of the Empire, where communication was monitored and travel restricted. We'll need a ship, Elias whispered. I know where to find one. They made their way through the outer layers of the palace, past the market courts, past the shimmering halls where golden statues stood like guards, and finally into the old docking bay used now for waste ships and forgotten cargo haulers. A sleek vessel sat in the shadows, one of Ares's old training crafts. Fast, small, and lightly armed. Perfect. They approached it quietly. But then a soft voice said, "Leaving so soon?" Elias froze. He turned slowly. Lord Kalen stood behind them, his hands clasped, eyes unreadable. I knew the peace wouldn't last, he said. You stir chaos wherever you walk, human. Elias stepped forward. Get out of our way, Kalen smiled, not moving. And what will you do if I don't? Strike me? You think they won't blame you for treason? Ares spoke then, her voice hard as steel. You lied to me about my mother. Kalen's expression darkened. I protected you. You caged me. Kalen stepped closer, voice cold. Your mother is dangerous. She sought to end the houses, to dissolve the traditions that kept this empire alive. She sought freedom, Ares replied, and now, so do I. Kalen sighed. Then I will not stop you. Elias blinked. Wait, what? The old noble turned. But know this, if you bring her back, everything will change. You won't be seen as a consort anymore, Elias. You'll be seen as a threat, a leader, or a target. He vanished into the shadows. Ares and Elias climbed aboard the ship. The engines hummed to life as they launched into the dark sky. Elias turned to her. You still sure about this? No, she said. But I've never been more ready. And together, they sped into the stars toward the truth, toward danger, and toward the mother who had never stopped watching. Asterisk. The ship soared through uncharted space, skimming the edge of Empire-controlled systems. Elias sat at the controls while Ares studied the coordinates left in her mother's encrypted message. The data pointed to a cold, dead moon in a forgotten. System Delta 9X. No comes traffic. No patrols. Nothing but silence. Why here? Elias asked. Ares stared at the moon on the screen, because no one would think to look. Not even me. They landed in a narrow canyon carved into the surface. The ship kicked up a swirl of gray dust as it settled. Outside the window, jagged rock stood like ancient bones, and the air shimmered faintly with electromagnetic interference. Something here was hidden and protected. They suited up and exited the craft. Ares led them toward a cave marked by strange symbols, Korzali runes, old ones long outlawed. She touched one with her fingers. It pulsed faintly with light. She's close, Ares whispered. The cave led to a tunnel, metallic, artificial, built into the rock. As they moved deeper, The walls changed polished corridors beneath the stone, humming quietly with low energy. Elias stepped cautiously. "You sure this is the right place?" Before she could answer, a voice echoed through the corridor. "Stop!" Lights snapped on. Dozens of sentry drones appeared overhead, targeting them. A tall figure stepped into view, cloaked, regal, and unmistakable. The Empress. Ares gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "Mother." The Empress pulled back her hood. Her features were older, now tired, thinner, but her eyes held fire. "You should not have come." Ares stepped forward. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" "I tried," the Empress said. "But Kalen and the others cut me off before the message reached full strength. They said you were dead, that you betrayed the throne. I tried to end the ancient laws," the Empress said. "Tried to give the next generation a future not ruled by bloodline contracts and warrior cults. So they buried me, hid me here." Elias spoke up. "Why stay hidden? Why not fight back?" The Empress looked at him. "Because I needed time and allies." She stepped closer to Elias. "And now, my daughter's chosen one comes to me, carrying the bond, carrying proof that the houses can be defied." "I didn't come to be a symbol," Elias said. "I just didn't want her to be alone." The Empress gave a small, warm nod. "And that is exactly why you must lead." Ares frowned. "What do you mean?" "There's a chance now," her mother said. "The nobles are split. Some are angry at the old traditions. Others are afraid of the bond you two formed. If we return together, with proof I still live, it will shake the foundation of the empire." "You want to reclaim the throne," Ares said softly. "No," the Empress replied. "You will. I will only stand beside you." Elias looked between the two women. "And what happens if the houses resist?" "Then we show them something stronger than tradition," Ares said, her voice growing steady. "We show them truth." The return to the Starspire was not quiet. As soon as their ship docked, alarms blared. Kalen met them in the central hall, eyes wide as the Empress stepped forward from the shadows. "She lives," Kalen said. "The court will never accept this." "They already have," Ares replied, holding up the Empress's crest. "We broadcasted the message before we landed. The nobles have heard everything." One by one, the members of the court appeared, some shocked, some silent. A few knelt without being told. Kalen stood firm. "You have no army, no council. Just a broken empire." "No," the Empress said. "We have something better." Elias stepped forward. "We have people who believe things can change." A younger noble stepped out from the crowd. "We follow the princess. We follow her bond." Another followed, then another. Kellen's lips curled. "You'll destroy everything." "No," Ares said, stepping forward with her mother. "We'll rebuild it." Kalen turned and left, defeated. The old guard was gone. Weeks passed. The Starspire changed. Laws were rewritten. Bonding rites revised. The ancient combat rituals ended. Aliens from other worlds came forward to ally with the new rule. For the first time, peace wasn't just the space between wars, it was real. Elias remained by Ares' side, not just as consort, but as partner. One evening, as they watched the stars from the balcony, Ares leaned, her head on his shoulder. "You changed my world," she whispered. "I think you changed mine first," he said. She smiled. "You really did choose me. And I choose you again." Above them, the stars shimmered bright, free, and full of stories yet to be written. And their story was just beginning.